The person who wants wealth the most is the one who prevents it from happening. And I say so because I have seen people waste decades of their lives seeking answers while holding an obstacle against them wherever they go. They think that the obstacle is something external, that it has to do with the economy, with their job, their situation, their past errors, the missed opportunities. But that's not true. The obstacle is internal. First of all, you must know that every single person lives from a certain state. State is just a concept of self. It is your definition of who you are as a human being, an automatic response to the question of who you are that pops up from time to time. It usually does not happen that way on conscious level. But we live our entire lives from a state. A person who sees himself as someone who always fails and loses will notice failures and losses wherever he turns around. In the same way, a man who defines himself as somebody who's unlucky will notice his lack of luck. In exactly the same manner, a person who identifies himself with a struggle will continue to encounter situations that will allow him to struggle. The outside world only mirrors whatever state has been created within consciousness. Listen carefully now, because this is an important point. Desire for wealth does not mean that a person seeks wealth. Wanting wealth means that there's an absence of wealth, a lack of wealth in his consciousness. Having wealth means that you already possess it. Wanting and having are entirely different states. Most of people's life is spent in a state of lacking. They become experts of longing for something. They develop a talent of waiting for something to happen. Every single day they think about what they wish and long for. They focus on the object of desire all the time, but they are doing it from the angle of absence of it. When people say that they want more money and that they desire it badly, they usually look down at their bank accounts. Then they think how far away from achieving a certain goal they are, and how disappointed they feel about that. But why are they disappointed? The answer is easy. They identify with disappointment, with lack of money. They don't change their state. If a person doesn't like his reflection in the mirror, he won't change anything if he continues staring at that reflection. The world works in the same manner. An outer appearance of life faithfully mirrors an inner state of a person. You are the one responsible for everything that is happening in your life. But at the same time, it gives a tremendous opportunity. All you need to achieve is already in you. How many times have you defined yourself based on your past? People often say things like, "Money was never my friend. I always struggled with finance. I'll never be successful." And the interesting thing here is that after repeating that enough times, people stop considering it just their opinion and turn it into an identity. A moment when an experience turns into an identity is critical. After that, it starts shaping a person's future experiences. Think for a minute about the kind of statements you make about yourself and how you define yourself. Do you see your past as a part of yourself? Or do you realize that the past does not define you as a human being? The difference between these two attitudes is crucial. The greatest challenge isn't attracting money, wealth, and success. Your biggest problem is in letting go of the identity that creates the absence of them. This identity may be pretty old sometimes. It might have developed since your childhood, during many years of disappointments. But whatever it is, a familiar feeling is not necessarily true. For example, if you've been worrying for 20 years, it will seem natural to you. Similarly, if you've been doubtful and negative for decades, it will feel natural too. Everything that feels normal just means that you got used to it. Familiarity comes from repetition. And this fact gives us a huge advantage, because a new state can also be created through repetitions. But before making any changes, it is crucial to question your current state. Think for a second about yourself. What are you like when nobody is looking at you? How do you think and feel when you talk to yourself privately? What conversations do you have inside your mind? People are usually quite surprised when they start listening to their own conversations with themselves. While outwardly they speak of wealth, success, possibilities, and opportunities. Inwardly, they talk of failure, lack of money, problems, and impossibilities. When they speak with others, they are optimistic. But when they think about something alone, they become pessimistic. Inner conversations determine what we attract to ourselves. It is impossible to entertain thoughts of lack and then receive an experience of abundance. You won't be able to change your life as long as you keep focusing on your old identity. Even if you somehow manage to attract unexpected opportunities, you will probably let them pass, because inner identity is unchanged. The old self will inevitably recreate the old conditions sooner or later. You must have noticed that some people are able to recover from a disappointment very quickly, while others stay disappointed forever, even if they experience the same thing. The difference does not necessarily lie in skills or intelligence. Identity is usually the key factor. Somebody sees temporary failure and thinks, that is just a passing episode. Somebody else sees temporary failure and thinks, this is who I am. Two totally different reactions and two totally different results. One of them identifies with a possibility, while another one identifies with the very concept of lack of possibility. Your state defines what is going to happen to you. Now imagine something really amazing, a version of you that already possesses wealth as a natural state of consciousness. We don't need to create it out of thin air. We need to occupy this state of consciousness. Just like an actor can play any role he chooses, so can you. But just like an actor doesn't transform into a character through some effort, neither do you. You just choose to be a person whose nature coincides with that role. And it means that you have to abandon one identity in order to adopt another one. You cannot have two opposite identities simultaneously. If your old identity tries to come back and drag you down, reject its suggestions gently. Don't fight with it. Simply ignore it. Remember that any transformation begins invisibly. You plant a seed before getting a tree. Change is inevitable, but first it needs to occur on invisible levels. The process is the same with wealth. Once it becomes natural to you, you'll have plenty of it soon. Start by asking yourself questions such as, how would I feel if I had money? How would I perceive opportunities? How would I react to any difficulties? How would I think and act in general? These are not fantasies. They will lead you to an entirely new state of consciousness. Asking these questions is the beginning of that transformation. What you'll experience afterwards will astonish you. You'll be thinking from a totally different point of view, and therefore noticing something new. Everything changes when you change yourself, because of the fact that the world faithfully mirrors your inner identity. Your external conditions start to conform soon. Most people assume that their desires towards wealth are bringing them closer to wealth. However, dear friend, there is an illusion behind desire, an illusion so deep-seated that it will trap you for decades unless you recognize it for what it is. Desire as such is not wrong. Desire is sacred. Desire is the call of an unseen possibility trying to express itself through you. If you didn't desire for something bigger, that greater life wouldn't be latent within you. But the moment desire becomes an endless longing, the trouble starts. There is an enormous difference between longing for something and desiring something. Millions of people wake up each day desiring more money or thinking about more money, about how rich they should be, about how comfortable their lifestyle will be, about the freedom they want. All day long, these same thoughts dominate their mind, and they are convinced that they are manifesting it. Yet the questions you need to ask are these. What is the feeling that underlies your thoughts about money? If the feelings are frustration, anxiety, irritation, impatience, desperation, or any form of discomfort, know that you are not inhabiting the realm of wealth, you are instead dwelling in the realm of its absence. Your awareness is focused on something you don't have. You need to know that consciousness doesn't differentiate between your desires and what you perceive as reality. It reacts to your internal reality. Someone may think about richness all day long, yet if someone thinks about wealth in a way of lack, they are still stuck in lack. They keep affirming the thing that they want by saying it to themselves that they lack this thing. Think of standing before the door and repeating to yourself 1,000 times, "I want to get inside." Do you really think that just by saying the words you'll make yourself step in? Your attention would be on the fact that you didn't step in. This is what longing does to you. It makes you repeat 1,000,000 times to yourself, "I want more money. Success is still away. It would be nice if something changed in my life." By doing so, you are only reaffirming the fact that the fulfillment isn't there yet. It is still in the future. Longing often disguises itself as manifestation. It feels productive. It feels active. But many people don't realize how long they spent in the state that is nothing else but rehearsal of non-manifestation. The outer world is only a reflection of the inner world. If your assumptions are different, the reflection will be different as well. If you assume that wealth is far away, it will be. If you assume that prosperity is difficult to obtain, it will appear difficult. If you think that abundance belongs to someone else, circumstances will appear to prove you right. This is not punishment from the universe. This is reflection. The universe acts like a mirror. It does not judge. It does not condemn. It reflects. I've noticed one peculiar thing about people who are longing. They usually attach great emotional significance to waiting for something to happen. They are telling themselves that one day something is going to change and they are going to get their dream, their opportunity, or their money. What effect does it have? It puts the fulfillment in the future. When fulfillment is in the future, it won't be a present experience. Tomorrow becomes the hiding place of their dreams. Years go by, and yet their assumption stays the same. Individuals keep waiting, hoping, wishing, and longing, while the state of fulfillment stays empty. You cannot have the results of something which you reject. And this is why the transition starts when you stop asking, "How can I obtain wealth?" and ask yourself, "Who would I be if money and abundance were my reality?" The first one is a thought of lack. The latter is a thought of possibility. They differ in essence completely. While one deals with acquiring something, the other deals with becoming somebody. Assuming a different identity brings about immense transformations. A wealthy person has his difficulties just like everyone else, but his perspective on those difficulties is totally different from yours. He doesn't immediately consider every obstacle as proof that success is unattainable. His assumptions about life are different, and therefore his experience differs from yours. An individual stuck in the illusion of lack sees problems everywhere. An individual immersed in an atmosphere of abundance sees ways forward, where there are only walls for the rest of us. The circumstances may appear similar, yet the assumptions are totally different. You need to pay attention to the way your mind works. Observe the number of times you postpone your fulfillment, your abundance, your peace of mind. How often you think that money will solve all your problems. How often you say that you are going to be happy when whatever it may be. This kind of approach will keep you at the distance from abundance forever. It works in a reverse order. Money isn't your source of satisfaction, abundance. Abundance is your source of money. Circumstances don't create satisfaction. Your satisfaction creates the circumstances. The feeling comes first. The result comes next. To the logical mind, it seems absurd. And yet, it is the basic principle of transformation. The moment you stop longing and start assuming, everything changes. The minute you abandon identification with the idea of a poor man waiting for the money to come, you start inhabiting the realm of someone who has money by birthright. You inhabit a whole new state. It affects everything around you, your perception of reality, your decisions, your reactions. It will eventually affect the circumstances. Things that appeared impossible until now will suddenly materialize. Opportunities will arise. Ideas will come, people will connect with you, events will happen. Not because you managed to impose something on the universe, but because you have started living it within. Now I tell you again, honor your desire, but stop worshipping your longing. Allow your desires to direct you towards the transformation of your identity. And finally, abandon the state of waiting. The wish is fulfilled the moment you stop perceiving yourself as lacking something. It is the beginning of your abundance. Once a man learns about the law of consciousness creating experience, another logical question arises. If it is true that it is my assumptions that create my reality, then how do I change those assumptions? How do I go from being where I am now to being where my wish fulfills? Herein lies the key. It is easier than most people could ever imagine, although it involves something that many find too much of a struggle. The secret lies in living from the end, not waiting for it. Most people waste their entire lives running around in search of the means necessary to satisfy their wishes and desires. However, it is possible for a person to perform all the required actions and still be sure from the depths of his soul that he will never achieve success. The true work needs to happen inside of a man. There is no need to try changing the outer world by applying various formulas. The real secret method involves taking on the state and feeling of the person who already has achieved his goal. Now many will start complicating everything, asking how long it takes or what kind of technique should be applied to reach success. But in fact, the principle is very simple. Ask one question. If my wish were already fulfilled right now, how would I think? Notice the subtlety in the wording. Do not ask what you would feel after getting the evidence of the achievement. But what if your wish had been fulfilled, and how would you be thinking about it? That is precisely the essence of this work. Most people expect that external circumstances should provide the opportunity for them to feel successful, confident, or rich, but in reality, the feeling must precede any manifestation of evidence. Just compare the example of a professional actor. He doesn't wait for the audience to believe in his role before playing a particular character. First, he accepts the role inwardly, starts thinking and acting from his character's perspective. Then only a real performance becomes possible. The same approach should be applied when you imagine the desired situation in your mind. If you wish to be rich, start asking yourself what it will mean to be wealthy in your opinion, and not necessarily from an emotional perspective. Because most people imagine the fulfillment of their wishes in the form of fireworks of feelings that would follow the acquisition of wealth, whereas in reality, anything we are really interested in becomes natural to us. That is precisely the power of imagination. Imagination is a creative power that helps to get access to a new state of consciousness. Through imagination, a person gets the chance to experience something inwardly that doesn't exist in the external world yet. Close your eyes and imagine the scenario in which the fulfillment of your wish occurs effortlessly. It could be a situation in which you easily control your finances and know you have enough money to support yourself comfortably, or when your best friend congratulates you on your achievements in front of you. Again, it doesn't really matter which scenario you imagine. What you are doing at this point is not imagining the situation per se. It is about the feeling the situation creates. You are searching for the state behind the image. The state is the cause, and the image is just an opportunity to enter the state. Another great way to achieve the same result lies in conversations held with yourself. Most people unconsciously participate in endless dialogues with imaginary opponents who remind them that something is wrong with them and that they won't succeed. Why not use the same power for a positive purpose? Start imagining yourself being congratulated for your achievements instead of criticized, for instance. Imagine yourself being able to act confidently because you are convinced of your own success and greatness, instead of endlessly talking yourself out of a certain decision. You don't need to force yourself. All you need to do is allow such images to be natural for you. And once you learn to do that, you'll get a real opportunity to experience them. Once again, you're not trying to convince yourself of anything. You're simply choosing the state. Nothing will hold you back. But remember that your present state will try to take you back to where you started. It will point out the current circumstances, the lack of time and effort. It will whisper that things haven't changed. Don't fight it, but return to your chosen state again and again, each time refusing to let yourself be taken away from where you wish to be. That is exactly what will give strength to your state. With each attempt, you'll start to get closer and closer. Soon the state of fulfillment will become more natural for you than any other. That is the key turning point. No longer will you be imagining your fulfillment. You'll start thinking from the perspective of having already achieved your goals. No longer will you expect anything from the future. From now on, you will start counting on yourself, on your own abilities and power. No longer will you consider yourself limited by the current situation. You'll consider yourself someone entirely different, someone who has reached the state of fulfillment. Of course, nobody will be able to notice that from the outside, it is the start of each transformation. However, it must come first. In any case, the external world always reflects our consciousness. That is why I urge you not only to try living from the wish fulfilled occasionally, or when it seems easier, but to live from the wish fulfilled all the time. Live from your choice. Think and feel and react from it. Let it become your permanent dwelling place. For the circumstances of fulfillment will come after you have achieved fulfillment within yourself. There will come a time when the idea behind it will be clear intellectually to you. You know that you must make the assumption, and that consciousness produces experience. You may even practice your imagination, but somehow it still seems incomplete. The missing ingredient is the feeling aspect. In order for you to really understand what I mean by feeling, you must recognize that the word has been misunderstood. Feelings are not meant to express emotion, nor passion, nor excitement. Feelings represent the knowledge that something is real on an emotional level, regardless of the lack of sensory confirmation. A person might go through affirmation and still remain in the same state because he or she is fighting the feeling. Meanwhile, another individual who said nothing might internally acknowledge something to be true to his or her heart and start changing. The difference between the two lies on their feelings. Feelings make an assumption live. Think of the planting of a seed into the soil. Seeds contain the possibility to produce fruit, but seeds need nutrients to sprout. Similarly, assumptions carry creative energy but need the feeling as sustenance. Feelings are what makes the assumptions come alive in the consciousness of individuals. That is the reason why saying, "I am rich," will fail to fulfill its purpose if a person continues feeling poor, afraid, and doubtful. Words cannot give life, feelings can. You must learn how to experience your desires in your consciousness. It is easier said than done because the senses are constantly reporting about current conditions. Your bank account might not show your abundance. Opportunities might not yet arise, and the circumstances will probably remain unchanged. However, you must understand that the law calls on you to trust a different perception of reality. The world that you see today is yesterday's state of consciousness made manifest. Continuing to react emotionally to past experiences means that you will keep repeating them. You need a fresh perception in order to see another day. This fresh perception can only happen when you experience a change of feeling. And here is something surprising. The feeling does not need to be very loud. Wealth feeling does not equate to a person's excitement about having lots of money. Usually, the feeling of wealth is rather quiet. The feeling of wealth is more about the feeling of ease, relaxation, contentment, satisfaction, and assurance that everything is happening perfectly. Fulfillment brings peace to the person because there is no desperation. Someone who already possesses something would not waste time pursuing it. Someone who already owns something would not beg for it. Someone who has already acknowledged the possession will relax. This relaxation is one of the clearest indicators that a person is entering the state of fulfillment. One of the most powerful times to induce such feeling into your consciousness is before sleeping. While transitioning from wakefulness into sleepiness, the conscious mind will begin to soften. It starts blending with the subconsciousness. During this process, the repetitions in the mind get deeply impressed in consciousness. This is the reason why I encourage everyone to spend their last moments before falling asleep thinking about your desired state as already accomplished. Do not allow yourself to go to bed thinking about problems. Do not go to bed thinking about fear or anxiety. Do not go to bed thinking about what you are going to face. Instead, imagine a situation in which your wish has already been fulfilled. Feel the relaxation and satisfaction and the gratitude. Drift to sleep thinking about it. Every single day, this activity will impress a new reality in your consciousness. Another crucial technique that you need to master is the skill of revision. Many people do not realize that each time they go back in the past and revisit their negative experiences, they reinforce the condition. They relive painful situations, replay their failures, and recall conversations that make them upset. Revision gives you another tool. At the end of the day, take any negative experience and change it in your mind. Rewrite the scenes to make the situation better. Do not deny the facts, but visualize them according to your wishful thinking. This is not denying reality. This is choosing the impression you will imprint in your mind. Your mind is never neutral. It is always getting impressed by something or other. If you fail to control what you are letting your mind experience, the same repetitive process will occur over and over again. Revision can help you break the circle. Revision can help you stop transferring old limitations into a new day. Persistence is a third quality, without which you will hardly succeed. A lot of people start great, but soon give up the assumption because they became too eager about proving the validity of their beliefs. They were excited about the possibilities for a few days until they started searching for evidence. Seeing no results right away, they returned back into the state of doubt. Doubt is not necessarily bad as long as you do not accept it. One cloud cannot overshadow the entire sky. One fleeting doubt cannot influence your perception of the reality you chose. Whenever the feeling of doubt appears, gently move your thoughts towards the feeling of fulfillment. Whenever circumstances do not seem to match your assumption, gently bring your attention back to the state of fulfillment. Whenever something seems to hold you back, gently remind yourself of your state of fulfillment and keep doing it, gently, without strain, without frustration, because persistence is what finally gets things done. Water slowly wears away the stone not through pressure, but through perseverance. Similarly, your persistence in the feeling of fulfillment will weaken the previous assumptions. Sooner or later, the feeling will start to feel natural. You will stop trying to force yourself. You will stop trying to convince yourself. You will stop fighting. You will rest in it. Once you get used to that feeling, something truly amazing will happen. You will no longer search endlessly for evidences. You will no longer measure every circumstance according to some standard. You will wonder no more about the possibility of fulfillment. Certainty will come to replace the necessity of proof. Your wish will become inevitable for you, and the reality will start rearranging itself accordingly. Feelings are not merely parts of the process, they are the process itself. Because life is a direct reflection of what you are consistently believing. If you learn how to occupy the feeling of the wish fulfilled, there are other questions you should answer. How are you going to stay true to this state when reality speaks otherwise? How are you able to believe when nothing is changed? How can you maintain your assumption when no evidence comes? Persistence is the key difference between those who know how to apply the rule and those who know how to live it. Tell me one thing, why do most people give up? Because their wishes are impossible. No. The majority fails because they give up the state too early. They plant seeds and dig them out on a daily basis, trying to check whether everything works fine. They assume the wish fulfilled for just several minutes and doubt it later for all days. Nothing can grow under these conditions. The law responds to consistency. The state we return to on a frequent basis becomes our reality. Imagine a farmer who plants his field. He does not spend all day worrying about the upcoming harvest. He knows it takes some time between planting and harvesting. There is much going on beneath the surface during the interval, even though it is not visible to the eye. In consciousness, it works the same way. As soon as a state is assumed, movement starts. Ideas start changing. Circumstances start changing. Opportunities start arising. Connections start emerging. Everything begins moving. Much of what is going on cannot be seen at first glance, yet it still happens. Among many errors one makes while trying to realize a wish, the biggest mistake lies in believing that nothing is taking place, since no visible results come. People tend to consider a lack of progress as a sign of failure. They think that silence and delays mean rejections. They believe that no visible signs equal no movements. But life does a lot of things in the background before the end result manifests itself. For example, let's look at the seed which is planted into the ground. For some time it seems nothing has changed. Everything looks the same as before. An observer sees no changes yet. Beneath the surface, everything is transformed. Roots started growing. Life emerged. Transformation began. Everything happened but did not show itself yet. The same applies to the assumptions we make. We assume the feeling of fulfillment and start living from there. As soon as it happens, everything that is needed begins moving, yet the visible results may require some more time. Our task is to assume the feeling, to relax and wait. Faith is an underestimated notion. Often people think it is necessary to believe in spite of uncertainty. But real faith is beyond that. It is the loyalty to the reality that is invisible to the eyes, yet is believed in by our consciousness. Faith is the ability to remain true to one's assumption in spite of what is going on in the surrounding world. Faith is staying with the inner vision regardless of external circumstances. Faith is returning to the state of wish fulfilled in spite of anything. Abandonment is the opposite of faith. Doubts coming here and there cannot harm the process. All people face doubts at times. However, abandoning the state and returning to the previous one is the problem. This is why persistence is essential. Persistence is not hard work. Persistence is returning again and again. Returning whenever fears start bothering the mind. Returning when any external circumstances trigger worries. Returning when one's old habits try to get control again. Return to the state of wish fulfilled. Return to one's new identity. Return to the assumption that your desire is already yours. Each of the returnings is transformative. Many people expect a big event to happen in one moment. It happens quite often. Much more frequently, however, the process requires numerous occupations of the new state till it becomes natural. Naturalness is the final goal. Rich people do not ask themselves whether they will ever be rich. People whose lives are full of happiness do not hope for happiness every day. People who are successful do not keep wondering whether they deserve it. These conditions become natural. The desired one should become natural for you as well. One can reach this goal through persistence. The longer one thinks from the state of wish fulfilled, the stronger it gets. The more days go by, the deeper one is identified with this state. The more faithful to it one is, the closer one moves to the new identity. After some time, one can witness a unique transformation. Desire stops being something one wants to fulfill. It becomes something one has already got. One stops making efforts and struggling with life. There emerges a confidence. This confidence is independent of any visible signs. It originates from the acceptance. Inner acceptance has much creative potential. The world responds to certainty, not to the certainty born out of arrogance. not to the certainty based on the desire to control everything, to the certainty that comes from knowledge, from deep knowledge, from calm knowledge, from the knowledge that cannot be affected by any circumstances. The deeper certainty becomes, the easier it is for manifestation. One can witness how life starts flowing differently, how unexpected opportunities emerge, how one makes decisions out of confidence rather than fears, how one acts from abundance, how one perceives reality, and then, at the very moment when nothing is expected, the results become visible. It seems everything has been delayed, yet comes unexpectedly. Everything is impossible, yet turns into reality. Everything imagined turns into real experience. Not because one made effort, just because he or she persisted, because he or she was true to the chosen assumption. And consciousness started doing its job. Persistence is the key to faith. Faith that what is accepted within should appear without. Faith that consciousness creates. Faith that each return to the state of wish fulfilled affects the future. Stay true to the feeling of wish fulfilled. Stay true to one's assumption of already having everything one wants. Be persistent and do not worry about results. What was accepted as truth in consciousness cannot remain invisible forever. It will appear sooner or later. Initially, when people start applying this law, they become obsessed with one question. This is the question of how. They want to know the way. They want to see the full plan. They want to understand every step on the way from where they are now until their wish comes true. Yes, I understand this need. Our brain always demands to know how everything will work. However, I would like to say that giving up the need to know how is probably one of the best manifestations of faith. It is not your business to decide the way. It is your job to inhabit the state. The way will be chosen by life itself. The minute you sincerely feel the way, the wish fulfilled in yourself, the movement of the powers outside the range of your current perception starts. Things begin to move. Circumstances start changing. Different people come and go from your life. Unexpected opportunities arise. This movement is the bridge of incidents. The bridge of incidents is the chain of seemingly random events leading from the state of reality you live right now to the realization of your wish. Most people think manifestation as something miraculous which will appear out of nowhere and change the things instantly. But sometimes it occurs that way, and most of the time manifestation happens through certain natural chain of events. The surprising fact here is that these events may be rather commonplace while they are still taking place. A call, a talk, an unusual thought, some unexpected opportunity, meeting someone by accident. Making a choice which seems trivial. Then, only afterwards, looking back, you discover that every single incident was a part of the bigger picture. The bridge was carrying you without even noticing. That is why being impatient is so harmful to manifestation. Impatient people begin to interfere with the process. They question all the time whether the events happen or not. They want to see proofs of life's involvement at once. They want to force life following their own understanding. In doing so, they actually create resistance where trust is required. There are lots of different ways through which the wish may be fulfilled. The conscious mind perceives only several of them. However, the consciousness sees infinitely many of them. Therefore, it is necessary for you to refrain from fixing to a particular way. Too many people decide how their wish must manifest itself, make a detailed plan, and become disappointed in life's inability to follow it. But what if there is a better way? What if an opportunity they need will appear from some totally different direction? What if delay that disappoints them will actually help to get better results in the future? As I said before, the bridge of incidents usually happens in the way that cannot be predicted in advance. Sometimes I see people receiving their wishes fulfilled through other people whom they had never seen before. Sometimes I see people achieving their dreams through events which seemed at the beginning not related to the desire at all. Sometimes people get something that at first glance looks like a setback, and this thing turns out to be the very thing opening them the doors to the fulfillment of their desire. The mind considers this event as the sign of misfortune. However, life uses it to fulfill their desire. This is the reason why nothing should be taken for the face value immediately. Today's disappointment may become tomorrow's necessity. Locked door may be just the sign that directs you to the even better one. Some delay will place you in the perfect position. Unfortunately, people do not have enough information to make adequate estimations of everything that is going on. That is why faith is needed, not blind faith. Faith which relies on the knowledge that once the state is accepted, its expression is inevitable. I would like you to fully comprehend this word, inevitable. Not possible, not probable, inevitable. When people are trying to manifest something, they usually perceive life as something they have to persuade. They hope it will happen, they wish it will happen, they wonder if it will happen. However, a person who lives with the fulfilled wish perceives reality differently. He understands it. His confidence is rather silent. His certainty is rather calm. There is no need for him to get assurances, because his decision was made inside himself. This certainty does not mean that everything in his life suddenly becomes ideal. It means that beneath any temporary appearance, there lies a strong conviction. The conviction in planting a seed. The conviction in the process taking place. The conviction in the manifestation moving towards visible expression. Once such a conviction arises in a person, a miracle takes place. Fear starts losing its power. Doubts become almost insignificant. Thinking too much about timing becomes pointless. You stop living in anxious expectations. You start living in confident expectancy. This shift changes everything in your life. Life becomes rather something to accept than something to chase. It becomes something to rely upon rather than something to worry about. The bridge of incidents continues to take place regardless of the fact whether you can see it in its entirety or not. Every day brings a new piece to the bridge. Every incident becomes a new piece of the whole. Every step brings you nearer to your dream. And quite often the manifestation occurs in the way which looks so natural that people around consider it luck. They call it coincidence. They call it a mere stroke of fortune. However, you know the truth. You know that what happened to you appeared in reality because you already accepted it internally. You know that what is visible now resulted from a transformation of what was invisible before. You know that the bridge began being built the minute you inhabited the state of the wish fulfilled. The world around will probably never comprehend the internal causes of external events. Nevertheless, what is important for you to understand that you know the law. You know that consciousness comes before experience. You know that assumptions transform into facts. You know that a person who remains loyal to his state cannot fail eventually, because life is always moving in the direction of his assumptions. The bridge may twist and turn. The bridge can bring a lot of surprises. The bridge may continue moving in a totally unpredictable way. Nonetheless, it brings to the very same destination, loyal to the state. Trust in invisible movement, letting life build the bridge. Going on with a quiet confidence. You know that what is already accepted as truth within yourself is already finding its way into expression. Once the wish is accepted within you as something that already came true, the question about manifestation becomes merely a question of time.